Slater Crusaders, America's the greatest country in the world. Thanks for being our latest special, All the President's Men. We're going to look inside President Trump's cabinet today. I've said from the beginning, and I said this to two different groups of people. Right? So you had one group of people who didn't like Trump and maybe needed a little extra convincing to vote for Trump anyway, right? And then I also said this to people who liked Trump, but even just to get you more fired up. You're not just electing Donald Trump for president. It's part of it. That's not all of it. You are also electing a group of people, a team, a machine. You have the man at the top who sets the agenda, no doubt. But he will then go out and find absolute fighters. And that's exactly what has happened. And he will let them loose. That has been the defining characteristic, I believe, of all the cabinet picks that Donald Trump has made so far. They are fighters with vision, with clarity. Fighters with clarity. Donald Trump has made these cabinet picks like we've never seen before. And you know it's good when the people on the left keep calling every pick of Donald Trump's dangerous. That is the word they always go. First they'll start with like unqualified, and then that doesn't land, so they go with, oh, he's very, very dangerous. You know that Trump made a good pick because they are dangerous to them. Trump's picks are dangerous to the left and dangerous to their cushy gigs and dangerous to their way of life that they've had for way too long. I want to go over here my top 5 favorite picks of Donald Trump's cabinet so far. They're all really, really good. There's been one that's not good, but he actually dropped out. He was head of DEA. That guy was awful. He's gone. So other than that, it's been great. So it's hard to narrow it down to 5, and this is not necessarily in any order, but here are my top 5 favorite that I'm most excited about. First, Kash Patel to lead up the FBI. The left hates Kash maybe more than any one of Trump's picks so far. I think that's right. They hate Kash Patel. All right, well, who hates him? Well, people in the FBI hate Kash because he said he's going to fire a ton of people in the FBI. Okay, so if you are one of those soon to be fired, you're probably not going to like the guy. You're not going to like the new boss. People who already left the FBI hate him because he said in an interview that he's going to declassify 50% of the classified material. And because he's like, listen, some things need to be classified for national security reasons, but a lot of the classification was done by people in the FBI to protect themselves. So those people are not going to be very happy. Also, the media hates Kash. Here's what he said about the media.
We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. Yes, we're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice.
You can imagine why the media wouldn't be very fond of him. Then the defense companies, they hate him because he's calling out the fact that the deep staters, people in the deep state, will give these giant contracts to companies while they're still in government, right? Knowing that when they leave the government, they have the best gig ever waiting for them on the other side if they just keep funneling over these contracts over and over. So Kash, along with many other of Trump's cabinet picks, understand that conveyor belt, and that nonsense is over. So Kash is hated all around, which is why I love him so much. Another pick that I love in my top 5, Bhattacharya. He gets in the top 5. I think he sneaks in the top 5 because of the poetry of it all. Bhattacharya. Fun to say. Say it. Go ahead and say it. Bhattacharya. The story arc of Bhattacharya and his courage paying off. It's amazing. During the lunacy of COVID, if you remember, it was September of 2020. And he was one of 3 epidemiologists who wrote what they called the Great Barrington Declaration, which said that these lockdowns are hurting people and we need to knock it off. It was the then head of NIH, National Institute of Health, who wrote an email to Fauci saying we need to take, this is a quote, a devastating takedown of this fringe epidemiologist. By the way, the 3 fringe epidemiologists, one was Oxford, one was Harvard, and Jay was Stanford. Okay, so these are the 3. So you had the head of the NIH, Francis Collins, saying we need to make a devastating takedown of Bhattacharya. And that fringe epidemiologist is now going to be the next head of the National Institute of Health, replacing the position that Francis Collins once held. That, like, are you kidding me? That's the retribution that we've been talking about, that Trump's been talking about. That's the reason we voted for Trump, for that type of retribution. That's just poetry. I can't wait for Jay Bhattacharya, the head of NIH. Number 3, Tom Homan. Can't leave Tom Homan off the list. If you were tasked with making a border czar out of clay, and you made a border from scratch, and God breathed life into him, you would not make a more central casting border czar than Tom Homan. Now, you, perhaps, people, look at Tom Homan, and one could come to the conclusion that this man does not have a soul. Maybe does not have a heart. He's heartless. I can see it. I see it. He comes across as cold, right? Bit of a heartless SOB. And he needs to have that front. Because the media is going to come up with every sob story that they can concoct. Oh, mi abuela. Look at all the abuelas. Children ripped from their mother's arms. Do you remember this? This was back Trump's first term, this Time magazine cover. The little girl screaming, being separated from her mother. This Time magazine cover came from this picture right here, this actual picture. And this was all in the midst of child separation. Well, it turns out that little girl with her mom from Honduras was never separated from her mom at all. She was placed on the ground for a moment while her mom was searched by Border Patrol and then picked up 10 seconds later. That picture was taken at 11 o'clock at night. I have 4 kids. If you followed me around for a while, you could find a picture with one of my kids in that same posture at some point throughout the day and come to any conclusion you want about our family. But the photographer who took it said that the girl stopped crying the moment that her mom picked her back up just a few seconds later. Oh, family separation, children ripped from their mother's arms. Tom Homan will not be distracted by any of that, like most people would. And it's not because he's cold and heartless. Are you with me? I mentioned how he kind of comes across as cold and heartless, but he will not be distracted, but it's not because he's cold and heartless. It is because he has rightly ordered heart. He has rightly ordered concerns. Here's Tom Homan getting passionate about the real destruction and misery and death that happens at the border, holding back tears.
I've talked to hundreds of angels and moms and dads who buried their children because they're killed by illegal alien. This is the latest. I've talked to little girls as young as 9 years old that were raped multiple times by members of cartel. When you look in her eyes and everything innocent and pure has been ripped from her soul, and her life will never be the same. I mean, it's just, I'm tired of it.
You see, there's nothing heartless about that at all. He just has his big heart focused on the right people. That's number 3. Number 4, one I'm most excited about is RFK Jr. I, along with every mom I know, is fired up about RFK Jr. I could also put him on my list of we'll sees, but I think the excitement and the potential outweighs any concerns. First, we got to keep RFK Jr. in his box, his Make America Healthy Again box, and make sure he doesn't get involved in environmental issues like oil drilling and stuff like that. But Trump knows this. Trump knows to keep him in his Maha box, and that's it. And I also understand the limits of what government can do in this realm. Right? It's one thing to take red 40 and artificial colorings out of Fruit Loops, right, and use natural coloring like they do in Canada. And RFK Jr. could do something like that. But also maybe people shouldn't be eating Fruit Loops. So we got to kind of address that too, and that's bigger than what the head of HHS can do. But I think the reforms at HHS can still, at the very least, give Americans a fighting chance to be healthy. And I think it can spur a movement for health. And I would love to, one day we should do another special here about JFK. And when he was president-elect in 1960, he wrote an article in Sports Illustrated called The Soft American. And it was all about how physical health is an ancient virtue. I would argue it's a biblical virtue and it's an American virtue. And JFK back in 1960 said we need to bring that back again. And I believe we need to do the same thing again today. So for that reason, I'm putting RFK Jr. in the list of top 5 people I'm most excited about for Trump's cabinet. But I said no particular order, but I think this is what I'm certainly most excited about. Vivek and Elon. I can't express enough how this is such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Elon is a once-in-a-lifetime genius. Vivek is a man on a tear. One interviewer asked Vivek who's more extreme when it comes to cutting government. And Vivek said probably Elon, because he said, one time I wrote that we need to cut 75% of the bureaucracy. And Elon said, no, change that to at least 75%. There can never be a moment like we have right now when it comes to the Department of Government Efficiency. 2020 would not have been that moment. It's funny how God works. Because since 2020, there's been 4 Supreme Court cases in the last 4 years that have made the massive cuts that conservatives have been dreaming about for decades possible. And they wouldn't have been possible if Trump won re-election back in 2020. We have a perfect storm now. We have Trump on a mission, Vivek and Elon. It's unbelievable that Elon's on the Trump train like this. We have these Supreme Court decisions, 4 of them in particular, and a mandate, and we have the House and the Senate. This will never happen again. So right now I'm choosing excitement, and we'll see if they can pull it off. And if they do, it'll be the greatest bloodless reset of tyranny in history. I don't know how to state it any more than that. Like that, this will be such an incredible thing if they can pull it off. That's the change I'm most excited about. It'll change everything. And I don't think anything can stop those 2. I'm going to throw an honorable, those are 5 people I'm most excited about. We'll talk about some more as well coming up here. I'm going to throw an honorable mention on the list to Linda McMahon. She could be the best Secretary of Education ever if she's the last Secretary of Education ever. So I'm going to throw this out there. If any other cabinet members want to make it into the top list of the best head of your department ever, it's great. You need to get rid of your department. If you make your entire department disappear, then you'll be on the list as the best leader of that department of all time. We're going to talk to one of Trump's men, Sebastian Gorka. He's the new Deputy Assistant to the President and Senior Director for Counterterrorism. We'll talk to Sean Spicer about the process of all this, or the politics of all this, and we'll talk to Ron Johnson about the process of all this as well, and how this is all going to happen. This next step of making America great again, getting the right people at the right jobs as quickly as possible. We got Dr. Gorka coming up next right here on the First TV. Welcome back to our special here on the First TV, All the President's Men. One of these men that I'm so excited about to be in the White House is Dr. Sebastian Gorka. His new job will be the Deputy Assistant to the President and Senior Director for Counterterrorism. And I should note that a DNC spokesperson, Alex Floyd, said Sebastian Gorka is a far-right extremist who is as dangerous as he is unqualified to lead America's counterterrorism strategy. Dr. Gorka, how are you, sir?
Good. Can you send me that? I need that link. I need that quote. That's hilarious. That's right. Because the fact that we have war in the Middle East, war in Europe, that means the current team are qualified, right, Mike?
Yeah, that's right. I love it. We actually joked in the first segment that that's like those are the 2 initial go-to responses from the left. At first, anyone's unqualified, and then when that goes flat, then they're dangerous. So you got both of them right there on the very first jump.
And we're dangerous to people who hate America, whether it's inside the country or outside the country. So yeah, we're dangerous, Mike.
Tell me, what is a Senior Director for Counterterrorism?
Right. So the National Security Council is the highest deliberative body for matters of defense and foreign affairs in the U.S. government. When it meets at principles level, it's actually the cabinet members. So if there's some huge emergency or super big issue, it's the cabinet members. So it's the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, Director of the CIA meeting to serve the president as the commander-in-chief. Now, that's very unusual. As a result, on a day-to-day basis, it is run by senior directors, each with a functional or geographical directorate who report to the National Security Director, who in this case will be the superb first Green Beret in Congress, Colonel Representative Mike Waltz. So I will be the senior director in charge of anything to do with counterterrorism for the U.S. government. I'll have people beneath me in my directorate who are detailed over from the DOD, CIA, State Department, you name it. And we will be running everything relevant to counterterrorism for the president. There'll be a similar person running Middle East matters, intelligence matters, European security affairs. There's about a dozen directorates in the White House who serve the National Security Advisor, who serves the president.
Okay, wonderful. So every time you and I have talked since you got this job, I'm so distracted because it all seems so surreal and incredible, and I'm so excited for all of it. So let me ask you on that point, what's different now that we got a new sheriff in town? And that new sheriff, Trump, Waltz, you, everyone else, what's going to be different?
Well, it really goes back to that risible quote you got from whoever that non-entity is in the Democrat Party. I used to be asked when I was in the White House 8 years ago, so what's the president's national security stance? What does he believe? What's his platform? And I'd literally just come from spending 2.5 years in Quantico teaching the Marine Corps. And I the Devil Dogs are very close to my heart. And I stole their motto, or one of their favorite mottos, which is no better friend, no worse enemy. And that's exactly what applies as of 12 o'clock on January the 20th, when President Trump raises his hand for the second time to become the chief executive and the commander-in-chief. If you are a friend of America's, like Israel or the UK, we will stand shoulder to shoulder with our partners, with our allies. If you're an enemy, well, just woe betide you. Because President Trump has made it clear, whether it's making sure that al-Baghdadi died like a dog, quote unquote, whether it's droning to death the most dangerous terrorist commander in the world, the General Soleimani of Iran, or whether it's dropping a Moab on al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. He's not an interventionist. This isn't a neocon interventionist administration. But if you threaten us, the hammers of hell will come down on you. So whether it's the domestic threat, open borders, no person better than Tom Homan, whether it's getting wokery out of the armed services, no better person than Pete Hegseth. So, the difference is America's back, and we will be led by a commander-in-chief who loves America and who wants every American, whatever their skin color, whether or not they were born here, if you're an American, we want you to be safe with your families and to prosper. And that's going to be our job to make that happen for all Americans.
Okay. Just everyone watching right now. It's like yeah, it's about time. It's incredible. We got about 3 minutes. Give me some other names in the cabinet that you're, or outside of the cabinet, that you're excited about to come to DC.
Yes, so technically I'm not a member of the cabinet. You have to be a head of a department to be a member of the cabinet. And then one of the nice things is Mike Waltz, myself, none of the senior directors who work in the White House have to be Senate confirmed, so we can start work as of 12 o'clock. But I think we had this chat on your radio show. For those who are worried or concerned, and are we going to be sabotaged like we were the first time by seditionists like John Kelly or Vindman? Just stop for a second, and smell the coffee grinds. Look at the name. I mean, just the last 48 hours, just as we're on cloud 9 because of Alina Habba, this rock star warrior princess being named counselor to the president in the West Wing. What happens a few hours later? Hamid Dillon, who comes in, the most corrupt element of the Department of Justice is the Civil Rights Division. This is where they went after the pro-life grandmothers. This is where they used the FACE Act to put people in prison who were praying outside Planned Parenthood abortion clinics. Hamid Dillon, this warrior attorney, is taking over the most corrupt part of the DOJ to clean it up. Let's talk about Kash Patel. Full disclosure, I've been lobbying day and night to get my buddy Kash Patel to run the FBI, because either he's going to fix it or he's going to dismantle it. This guy is a rock star. Not only is he a rock star, from counterterrorism prosecutor to, he had my job. He was senior director in the White House for counterterrorism when President Trump killed al-Baghdadi, the head of ISIS, to the deputy director of national intelligence, chief of staff of the Pentagon. There is no one better qualified than Kash Patel at FBI or Pete Hegseth at DOD. Just look at the names, everyone. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy or the deep state is going to surrender, but the team coming in are loyal to MAGA, loyal to America First, and they're just not going to take any prisoners, Mike.
What is your message to terrorists who are here in America? You mentioned on my radio show the other day that if there's, 11 million illegal aliens here, if just 1% of them are terrorists, then we have a major problem. And that's now under your control, your direction. You're the senior director for counterterrorism. That includes in America. What do you say to them?
Well, there's two types. There are kind of rational actors like the narco-terrorists, from the cartels. We will neutralize you. So if you want to live somewhere else the rest of your days, you better leave America and you better not hurt any American citizen, because we will find you, whether it's Tom Homan, whether it's Kash Patel, whether it's other elements of the USG, we will find you and we will neutralize you. If you're a jihadi who relishes dying as a shaheed to the cause of killing Christians or Jews or apostates, we will so neutralize you that your memory will be an embarrassment to everyone in your faith community. You will go down in history as an utter, complete loser. So whether you're a rational actor who's not religious or religious, it's time to leave America. Otherwise, we will find you and we will neutralize you. And if you're a jihadi, your message to posterity is that you are an absolute failure. So take notice, we're coming to find you.
Where can people follow you, Dr. Gorka, and support you?
Well, as of January the 20th, it'll be on social media, all the usual places, except the fascistic YouTube. So Truth Social, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Parler, get all that stuff. And then I'm going to try and keep my Substack up to date with the agreements of National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and the President and the comms team. So check out my Substack, sebastiangorka.substack.com.
We absolutely will. He is the incoming Deputy Assistant to the President, Senior Director for Counterterrorism. Sounds so sweet. Dr. Sebastian Gorka, an honor, sir. Thank you.
God bless you and the viewers. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, brother. Coming up next, Sean Spicer is going to be here. We'll talk about the politics of all these picks, and then we'll talk to Ron Johnson about the process of actually getting everyone through. But there's politics behind the scenes that Sean Spicer will give us the insight about. That's next right here on The First TV. Hey, Slater Crusaders. Welcome back to our special, All the President's Men Inside Look at the Trump Cabinet. How excited I am about it. Let's go to the great Sean Spicer, host of the Sean Spicer Show, right here on The First TV every day at 7 o'clock. Sean, great to talk to you, brother. What is different from transition 2.0 that we're in the midst of now compared to transition 1.0 from 8 years ago?
Funny, I was just looking at my camera at 2016, the Army-Navy games coming up this weekend, and I was going through the photos, and it's obviously there was time at Bedminster and Trump Tower, and so I was going down memory lane as we were getting ready for this. But I think there's three distinct differences: the people, the process, and the policies. What do I mean by that? The people that he's surrounding himself with, I know the media likes to call them loyal, but more than loyal, they're disruptors. In every single case, the people that he's bringing in are known disruptors, people that are going to challenge the status quo, get things done for the American people. And last time, Trump, frankly, was new to the game. He was trusting people when they recommended somebody to come into the administration. And in many cases, those individuals served themselves, not President Trump's agenda. On the process piece, you can have all the policies in the world, but if you don't know how to move the chess pieces around the board, it doesn't matter. You get blocked by the deep state, by the bureaucracy, by people who are unwilling to advance your agenda. And I think the one thing that has gotten sort of unsaid, untold, uncovered, Mike, is that the last 4 years weren't spent just hanging out on a golf course. The Trump team has been looking at policies and processes, right? So when you hear things about recess appointments, it's not just coming out of thin air. They've thought about how do we get things done, whether it's putting our people in place and how we're going to do that from day one, or how do we get these policies down the track? And when you look back on 2016, there were several instances where, frankly, we just were new to the game. And it's like a team, when they play someone for the second time, a lot of times they go, okay, we know exactly how they move across the field. We know where they send the ball or the puck or the ball, whatever, right? This time, I think Team Trump at 12:01 on January 20th is going to send Washington into a tailspin.
So guys, I get this analogy of like sometimes when you put the NBA All-Stars together as like our new dream teams, they'll like almost lose to like Kenya or something. And it's because they never played together. But I love your point. It's not just that they've been thinking about this since they won the election on November 5th. They've been thinking about this last 4 years. So we're ready to play and it's go time. What do we need to know about the people? Because much has been said about the cabinet picks. But what do you know about the people that he is directly surrounding himself with, his chief of staff and the Stephen Millers and stuff like that, and how they're different and operating differently than in the past?
It's a great question. So if you think about 2016, we basically had three power centers: Reince Priebus, who was technically the chief of staff, Steve Bannon, and then Jared Kushner. And so there were three teams that had different priorities. Not that they, always disagreed, but there were just different ways, different processes, different theories. This time, Susie Wiles is driving the train, right? And then she's got a structure under her of, I think it's 5 deputy chiefs of staff now, who are responsible for different areas. And then they build out from there. This is a much more focused team than we had in the past. Last time it was like Reese's peanut butter cups, like the chocolate fell into the peanut butter and everyone was trying to put it together. You had the team from the RNC, the team from the campaign, and everyone's trying to figure out how to work together. These folks have worked together now in many cases for years. They're coming in a much more cohesive way. You don't see gadflies like Omarosa joining the administration like we did last time. And I think they're going to be much more focused on the task at hand.
Yeah, I love it. I see a theme here that people are not interested in themselves. They're focused on
That's right.
the
That's
mission
right. And that's the difference. A lot of people came in last time and thought, oh, I get the job. Now here's what I want to do. And one of the things that I've been reminding people who have some concerns about this nominee or that is that nominee is buying into the Trump agenda. Their goal is to understand exactly what the president wants to do in that particular area and execute. It has nothing to do with their personal agenda.
Yeah, it's great. I'm thinking of the old Michigan football coach. It's the team. It's the team. Once you leave here, there'll never be a team again.
I'll say
this is your team. Fight for the team. Okay, how so? How so?
That's that. I mean, look, when the Patriots were in their heyday, it was all about the team, right? There was no individual that was bigger than the team, even though Brady was an all-star. The idea was Belichick brought that sense of team. We are one. We win as one, we lose as one, but we are one. And that you're right. I mean, it was literally that sense now of we're all in this together. There's no superstar. There's no one that's out there trying to make a name for himself because they understand. They've seen the president in action. I think there's a big difference now once they've gone around the block a couple times.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned this before. What are some of the deep state hurdles that were successful? The hurdles were successful in the past that this time we're ready for and can just move around.
So the first thing is people last time, when you have your own appointees that aren't on board, that makes moving the deep state around or the bureaucracy very difficult. And so this time it's by putting leadership in place. The second thing is there's about 4,000 political appointees that the president of the United States makes. So somewhere roughly about 1,000 of those are Senate appointed. The other ones are they call Schedule Cs. Those are people that day one you can put in place. They've identified a lot of those people. They'll be ready on day one to execute. And so you're going to have people from the top to the bottom starting on day one. They're going to enter the administration ready to execute on the agenda. That makes a big difference. The president last time, look, he wasn't a political figure, an elected figure. He didn't have a cadre of folks to say, okay, I'm going to staff the administration with my people. He was having people bring him folks who he assumed was in his best interest. In a lot of cases, that wasn't. But you can never move the bureaucracy if the people who are the representatives of the presidents don't share that ideology, share that will, because it's not easy. And so you've got to have disruptors and fighters willing to take all those positions to move the direction you want to go. And this time they're there.
Yeah, Chris Christie has no say in this administration, is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Temper my expectations here because I'm very excited. And I'm excited for this.
I'm not going to, no. I won't do that. I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
I share your excitement. I am literally clear your schedule for the afternoon of January 20th. Get some popcorn. Make sure you've got water to stay hydrated. But I'm not telling you, I'm excited. I think there's so much that's going to get done on that first day, in that first week, in that first month. So don't let anyone temper your expectations. Let's go.
Good. I don't want to. Because it's good. I left it to you to temper it, and you reject me. You rebuked me before I even got the question out. So no one can temper it.
Stay excited.
Now, okay, all right, hold on though. We're going to talk to Ron Johnson in just a few minutes. Okay. Now, the Senate is the world's great deliberative body. This is where the passions of the people go to die, but
Exactly.
with the way things always have been, right? Are they going to cave all this whole thing, or are they going to follow through?
Well, I think that might have traditionally been the case, but I think President Trump and his team, look, Heritage Foundation just put $1 million into a campaign to pressure senators to pass his nominees. They're not getting a pass. There are no excuses this time. You will be primaried. We have no excuses. We have a 53-seat majority. Yeah, Susan Collins is in cycle this time from Maine. Just a little bit of a pass because we need her vote. But beyond that, no excuses, folks. Let's go. And I think that the Senate traditionally would have played a game. Well, President Trump made it very clear to John Thune when he was running for majority leader. You have an agenda. Be ready to pass it. No excuses. Stop whining. And I think Thune put out a schedule that indicates, at least initially, that he's on board.
Love it. Other than Sean Spicer's show every day, 7 o'clock here on The First, where else can people follow you?
SeanSpicer.com. Actually, by the way, I've got a lot of behind-the-scenes photos that I'm going to be putting up this Friday. So if you're interested, go to SeanSpicer.com. You can see all things about my program here on The First. But also just I'm loving to share some of the stuff from behind the scenes during the transition, the Army-Navy game that we went to in 2016 and in the future. So nice. Check it all out.
We'll do it. What an exciting time. Sean Spicer, you're the man. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, brother. See ya.
We'll talk to Ron Johnson, Senator from Wisconsin, next right here. First TV. Spread the word.
Concerns about President Trump's cabinet picks so far, and what advice will you give him when it comes to choosing nominees who will pass Senate confirmation?
Well, as you know, the Senate has a advise and consent role under the Constitution, so we will do everything we can to process his noms quickly, get them installed in their position so they can begin to implement his agenda.
It's pretty much all been very encouraging as Trump has made his picks, and senators seem to be supporting it. Ron Johnson is our favorite senator from Wisconsin. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. And yourself?
Good. I didn't mean you're our favorite senator from Wisconsin. You are our favorite senator, comma, and happen to be from Wisconsin. Our favorite of all 100, not just of the 2. I just want to be clear with how I worded that awkwardly. Tell us who you're most excited about right now with his picks.
Well, from my standpoint, is Bobby Kennedy. I think what he did, it was not easy decision for him to make to suspend his presidential campaign. I mean, he put his heart and soul into that thing. Garnered a lot of attention on the conservative podcasts, not much from the legacy media, but he was primarily focusing on his, agenda, the thing that he has, been fighting for now for decades, not only the environment, but primarily how do you make America healthy again? And the fact that he suspended his campaign and then joined forces with President Trump, I give both men a great deal of credit. That demonstrates to America how you set aside differences, focus on areas of agreement. In this case, how do we tackle chronic illnesses? But in so doing, also demonstrating to Americans how do you heal and unify a very divided country. It's really opened up Trump to broadening the coalition, and that's gotten noticed by people. And it's an incredibly important issue and one that I think the American people are embracing.
That's great. Let's use him as the example for the confirmation process. So what does this Senate confirmation process look like?
Well, again, there's a very strong bias, and I think this is true of all Republican senators, that elections matter and that the president is the one who decides who he wants serving in his administration. So barring some disqualifying revelation that generally results in the nominee being pulled back, not even completing the confirmation process, my guess is that any nominee that gets through the confirmation hearings and gets a vote on the floor of the Senate, I think should be confirmed.
Last time, RFK Jr., I think last time, he did a hearing. It was in the House. And the first 10 minutes were Debbie Wasserman Schultz calling for him to be kicked out of the hearing because he said some whatever, right? So it's like this whole ridiculous show. Do you expect there to be a lot of these shows put on during the process?
I hope not. I think you'll probably see more organized opposition to Bobby's nomination than to any others. He threatens the status quo. And by the status quo, I mean the corporate capture of all these agencies and the corruption of them, where these agencies are no longer working on behalf of the American public, but on behalf of the very corporate interests that they are supposed to be regulating, to the detriment of consumers, to the American public, and to their competitors. So that's an apple cart that powerful interests do not want to be upset. But the beauty here is the public supports the nomination. The public strongly supports the nomination. As I have done my unofficial whip count talking to both Republican and Democrat senators, the conversation is very interesting, go pretty much the same way. Well, I love a lot of what Bobby's pushing for, and they have individual concerns across about 4 or 5 categories, which I believe, knowing what Bobby's response will be, will alleviate those concerns. So I'm pretty optimistic about his chances for confirmation.
Okay, you brought up his name first, so let's keep going with his name as an example for all these bigger questions. I'm very excited about what's to come. I'm very encouraged, enthused, etc. But let's say everyone likes RFK Jr., right? And maybe he gets it. Maybe he gets the confirmation, and now he's the guy. And he says, hey, we're going to ban fluoride. Okay? Big Fluoride happens to have a processing plant in Wisconsin. Now, I shouldn't use you as an example because you would never do this, but the big Fluoride starts lobbying all the senators and the whole thing stops, right? The whole Trump train we got going, all this big movement, all this excitement is done because lobbyists are so powerful. Why is it different now than in the past, do you think? Or is it?
Well, first of all, I don't think that's the way it would occur. I think Bobby's first task is to restore integrity to scientific research, which has been corrupted. I mean, Eisenhower warned us about this in his farewell address, that if you have government funding research, you will corrupt it. You will end up with a scientific and technological elite that'll drive policy. That's what Fauci did to disastrous results during COVID. And so we need to restore integrity to science, and then science will prove what our actions should be that need to be taken. So I don't see, Bobby might have his opinion of fluoride or glyphosate or whatever, but I think the first step would be, okay, let's get the science. Let's face it, virtually every drug that can cure disease, if given in larger quantities, can be toxic to the body. That's true of chemicals in general. So you have to determine, okay, what's the proper dose for a pharmaceutical product to work? What's the proper amount of herbicide or pesticide that dissipates and causes no harm versus what's the concentration that could actually create harm? Those aren't easy questions to answer, but you have to be allowed to ask them. And in my event that we held the end of September with Bobby Kennedy and Dr. Casey and Casey Means and her brother Callie and all these nutritional experts, I think probably the most insightful piece of testimony snippet came from Dr. Chris Palmer. He's a psychiatrist looking at nutrition's impact on mental health. He said they don't want to discover the root cause of these problems. They don't want to discover the root cause of this explosion in autism and in other chronic illnesses. And I think that's generally true, because those of us who ask the questions, they're legitimate questions. The American people want to know the answer. We just get destroyed. We get vilified because, again, these are powerful interests, and upsetting that apple cart could literally cost businesses millions and millions, if not billions of dollars. And I understand their concern. Totally. That's why we want to get it right. I'm not jumping to any conclusions. Yeah. We need to first get the science right. We need to restore integrity to the scientific process. Again, if you're the government, you're paying for research, you're going to get the result the government wants. If you're a corporate interest, a pharmaceutical company, big ag, big food processing, you pay for the science, you get the result you want. That's called corrupt science.
Yeah, it's been that way for a long time. But these are existential apple carts for all these companies that are going to be disrupted profoundly. We got about 1 minute. Let me ask you this question, and I want to pivot it to the border. Go ahead.
Just real quick, it is, But again, when you do have chronic illness at the levels it is today, when you have autism, 1 out of 36 children now have autism. 24 years ago, it was 1 out of 150. And the extent they changed definition, it was to tighten it up so there'd be less cases reported. So listen, these are issues that have to be explored. We have to be able to ask the questions and get the answers.
On this issue or so many other issues, let's just take the border as well, deportations, et cetera. Do you believe that senators have the mettle to weather through what's going to happen over the next 2 years and the outrage from the media and the left, et cetera, et cetera? Do your colleagues have what it takes to persevere?
I think so, because this was a convincing election victory by President Trump, not only the Electoral College, but also the popular vote. And again, on specific issues like securing the border, like securing, making America healthy again. And here's what's different. Elon Musk bought Twitter. He saved free speech in America. Not only was Kamala Harris defeated, the legacy and corporate media were defeated in this election. Mm-hmm. And so now we are, in addition to doing the right thing, the thing that we were elected to do, having support of a plurality of Americans, we're actually going to have media outlets like X that will tell the truth about what we're doing, as opposed to just lambasting us and basically spreading misinformation, what we're trying to accomplish.
The great Ron Johnson, Senator from Wisconsin. Thank you, sir. Keep up the great work.
Have a great day.
I'm excited about what's to come. I'm excited about these cabinet picks. I honestly thought a couple of these guests maybe would throw a little cold water on it, and that'd be great. I'd want to live in reality too, but I just got even more excited. This is a time to blitz through all of the institutions. The left is still spinning around. They're in total free fall. They have no idea what to do next. And this is the time to make it all happen. This is the time to make America great again. We did our job on November 5th, and now it's time for Trump and all of his men to get the job done. Let's do this. Let's go. Mike Slater, The First TV. Spread the word.